Hi, everybody. Welcome, 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 welcome. Love ascending, love ascending. Rainbow hugs and kisses to everybody. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is Joanna at the park, and we're going to do a really short video because they keep cutting out on me. The battery only lasts so long when I'm in the sun. So we're going to see if we can get this done before the video cuts out. And the other day we had some really powerful energy. Something amazing happened. Three more videos were created after the last video. And I didn't realize they kept cutting out because I was in channel and I didn't open my eyes. So when I did open my eyes, it was cut out, and then they didn't download and record. But there was some really cool things that occurred that were just for me. I asked Spirit why they didn't record, and Spirit said because those were wisdoms and informations and channels just for me. So sometimes Spirit does that. But I'm so excited today. We're going to talk about something that's been a really big topic and really the underpinning of our social evolution, human evolution. I find these topics so mind-boggling, and it's kind of it's exciting for me to talk about. It's exciting for me to bring forward, and on the other end of the spectrum, it's a little disheartening for me to not feel the energy of more people being involved and more people being excited with me, and that's just kind of the acceptance part. And just accepting where everybody's at in their own level of consciousness, but how profound these topics are that I'm bringing up, and we are bringing up as channels, conduits, and light workers and seers. The topic that the Pleiadians offered me a while ago was our ideas on power and how our reality for thousands of years, since the persecution of Jesus, and before that as well, how we had understood who we are, what we exist within, and what exists within us, with regards to our roles and our definitions, and how our entire planet and our higher evolution is belonging to a higher level of balance now, and the trees are balancing. The trees stand in the way that they stand, and they are rooted in the way they are rooted so that they can support the many branches that spout forth, which is no different to everything within creation that is a circle. Every aspect of evolution does return to the circle. The law of one is based on the circle, everything returning to source, everything that spirals out in the vibrational realms of dimension, the sheaths and the threads of energy that we each have and can thread within, all spiraling in this beautiful toroidal experience in and out of the infinity of what we think was then and which is now and future. It's all really now, and it all returning back to the law of one. The equations of creation, the equations of all reality, the equations of all life, the properties of all life are in and of its essence and at its center of balance, and how important that is for our entire collective in every moment. How am I not balanced? How can I return to balance? We are constantly living organisms aching for balance. Especially those that have come from, we can create a metaphor in any direction of our reality, because our reality has so much imbalance. Whether it's a child that's coming from a broken home, how that imbalance affects that child's psyche, psychology, philosophy of life, philosophy of oneself, what it exists within and what exists within the greater whole, how it defines itself, its sense of self, the self-evolution. Balance is so very profound to the creational equation. And I've been given little points and little bits and pieces because it's such a grand and monumental topic. Who are we as divine beings, and why we've had such explosion in our reality with generations, creating more diversity in and voice in who they are exploring themselves sexually, gender exploration. All of those things are ways in which we can return ourselves back to balance in whatever way that each soul chooses to, because these energies and these stories are meant to come forward to challenge us and our old systems of belief, and why we're seeing and experiencing so much of it in our daily lives, why there's many tower moments and many tragedies and many celebrations due to these imbalances of staunch, rigid beliefs that must be pulled up and rewritten. Nobody should ever have to live in suppression or depression of who they know themselves to be, but have been suppressed due to various beliefs or ideologies or roles or definitions. And it's within every aspect of our culture, whether it's the impoverished, whether it's the disenfranchised of any level of our creative reality, women, children, Aboriginals, nature, wildlife. We can see imbalances everywhere. in our natural world. And the councils have been giving me these beautiful little tidbits that are profound on the underpinnings of our evolution. And it really does have to do with balance. How attuned are we within our own vessel of consciousness to create that better balance? The more awake we are, the more balanced we become, because we then know what depression feels like, what suppression feels like, and how imbalanced we are. We're meant to be in that infinity where we're maintaining that homeostasis within our center, and why the center of our being is so very important. And to ground that is going to be really vital for the health that we co-create for ourselves, where we're balancing our male and female energies and properties. We're balancing our chakras through releasing and healing, understanding what each chakra allows us to explore, allows us to expand within, and allows us to grow and expand out. Because remember, our chakras will shift and change as we become greater, higher vibrational beings of understanding. Remember, our chakras are always being upgraded along with our Merkabas. The codes within our Merkabas are constantly upgraded. It's a constant evolution of who we are. And it's all happening within the evolution of how we are becoming harmonized and balanced within ourselves. Because we live within a multidimensional reality. We are not solely affected by our environment. We are now more than ever affecting our environment, and it's really important to keep aware of. Becoming 5D is not only the DNA that's being activated. When we are in perfect balance, our DNA gets activated into the next string, because we need to be able to balance this level of light. Have we integrated the light? When we get a great capacity of light, the light will continue and it will accelerate. So are we keeping up with our daily clearing and cleansing so that our bodies can continue processing and flowing with greater light? That spiral will continue. And we will continue on this now moment. Anything that comes up that is a block or a belief or a wound must be acknowledged, accepted, and then integrated into your now moment, so that you're constantly transmuting and alchemizing. That's essentially what we are doing as biological quantum energy within a greater quantum environment that we're constantly threading and quantumly interacting with. So to understand that at a minute, micro, macro, then we get to understand our collective imbalance and how each of us are here to kind of add and incorporate our gifts. So many, many months ago, the Pleiadians had given me this topic about one of my own personal woundings was to look at a deeper global collective vibrational unfolding. Is what do we know the Father to be? What do we know the role Father, the word Father, the God Father, the Father that we call Father, Mother, Father, God? We knew of it only to be one God, and it would be the male property. That's all we've ever been taught. We've never been taught really about mother and father working as one, working as a union of one. For any soul to go through ascension, one must harmonize their male and female mother, father, God energies. That's why we've had energies or explorations of divine masculine, divine feminine, and the twin flame. It's to honor and understand that you don't necessarily need that other person there to go with you in that next level of ascension, but understanding your own properties of balance within the will and the allowance, the will to create and the allowance to receive. That is the giving and the taking and reciprocity. I can never say that word. So that the balance, the scale is always balanced. And you don't need it from another person. Jesus ascended without having that. Many masters had ascended without needing that physical counterpart. But one must bring it within thyself to be able to create the will and then to receive. So to receive any gifts from the heavens, we must create that will that we are worthy, we are valuable, we are honoring of ourselves, we understand our bodies. And so that creates then that defining moment. I know who I am. I know the vibration I want to match with. I want to match with the vibration of creative excitement. I want to match with the vibration of being a great cook. All of those excitements to create your reality, remember, as we talked about the other day, is to refine the vibration you want to feel and then start manifesting in the excitement of that. And that's building your world vibrationally so that you can match it. Remember, everything in life and the properties of life are an equation, and there must be a balance. The divine male and divine masculine must be a balance. But for eons, we've been out of balance because of the stories we've been told, the games of separation we wanted to play, and our ideologies, the sacred texts, the many of the very powerful imprints that we've come with, that we chose. We chose these collective stories of subjugation and role definition and abuse of power, all of these things we've come with. We chose these stories so that we can explore them. We can explore the densities and the vastness of separation, that we can each move to the most expansive part of source and then return again. One of those experiences of separation is our divine masculine and divine feminine explorations and experiences as who are we, what do we exist within, and what exists within us as far as the divine masculine and feminine roles. And again, why we've had the sexual explorations that we have over the past many years and the gender explorations, they're all tied in various ways of our multidimensional sheaths of our realities now being threaded up into these greater earths of harmony, because we're always creating, we're desiring to, whether we know it or not, we're creating that greater harmony by creating greater acceptance and allowance for these differences. So what they wanted to talk about many minutes ago, the Pleiadians offered me a topic about pondering about what the word God and Father mean and how those ideologies have followed us for many eons. What do they mean for us, and how those ideologies and notions, belief patterns, dogma, societal titles have limited us in every way and created more separation between us as peoples, between ourselves with God, God being outside of us, God being this hierarchical aspect beyond us and above us of judgment, of punishment, but actually not. But they were ideologies to create fear and install fear. And the many purposes and reasons why we've gone through this entire experience of separation. These are really profound sociological defining moments for our collective. And we're now transferring into a new sheath of dimensional vibrational acceptance. Each of us are being asked to explore what our understandings are within ourselves, what we exist within, what we've seen throughout our lives within our families, our lineage, what we've noticed, what we've observed, and what we want to be a part of changing and being a part of correcting and rewriting, because we all know there's great imbalance with pay equity, great imbalance with divine feminines being included in all of our society, as well as the children, as well as the elders, in every level. And we've seen such great abuse of power, even with the wars that are continuing. And how can we start changing these really profound human issues and start rewriting these sacred texts that long ago were given to us that were perhaps misdirected, misinterpreted? Because remember, the interpretations we were given way back thousands of years ago, if you will, were based and interpreted from a lower vibrational consciousness, and were most often than not done by only the words they had, the understandings they had, and done by male energies. And so now we're going into we talked about this many months ago about the upside down effect, about releasing the mental body programs. And if enough of the consciousness has awakened to the point where enough of the mental programs have dissipated and are now being alchemized, but now we're at this new step up phase in which those that are awakened, we've done the processing of a lot of the energetic imprints, and enough of the collective is ready to take this next level up in the sheath of dimensional vibrational experience. And that means that we get to start incorporating within our templates of co-creation these new sacred truths, these new sacred stories. And many of them are the return to balance. That return to balance is the equality and equity between all of our collectives, the divine masculine and divine feminine working as a collective oneness. And that is within ourselves. As many of you have gone through Ascension, it is to balance your male and female energies and what your perspectives and your ideologies and your beliefs are about such stories and imprints. We all come with vibrational imprints. The vibrational imprints we take on as a soul contract, and it's partly within our vibrational multidimensional field. We take imprints on, as we've had many shows about imprints, because they're not in a short synoptic. They're stories of vibrational experience that we take on, and they sit within our multidimensional contract, if you will, of what our soul wants to move through for the vast amount of change, for the vast amount of growth, for the vast amount of usage for our gifts, our skills, and our talents, for not only ourselves, not only our lineage, not only our soul, not only all realms we exist upon, but also the collective, because it's always a sacred trinity. And so imprints can be held within the physical body, the mental fields, the emotional fields, and the spiritual fields. And we take on these imprints and they change as we evolve. We can release an imprint and then we can gain another imprint. We have our teams constantly working with us, our souls constantly working us to imprint stories and visions for us. Those of us that are clairvoyant and clairaudient, clairsentient, we can feel these experiences on other realms and other now momentous experiences. For instance, if I'm going through a timeline experience and I need to explain something in a way that makes sense for people, I can create a vision. I'm downloaded a vision that might be held on a third dimensional Earth back in the year 2 BC, we'll just say. And that experience was very pivotal. That imprint can be given to me as a vision, and I can garner that imprint and that story so that I can incorporate what I need to in this now unfolding experience, because the creative reality can see how we used such stories to make decisions that were not in our highest and our best, but just fell with the conformity, fell with the consensus, if you will. And we don't need to do that anymore because we're awakened. We can say, well, I don't want it. That's not my story. I'm going to go with this way. So a lot more people are speaking up for their truth and what stories they want to start creating from. And that's where you're living from your own truth, your own story. And that takes a lot of clearing to do so, because you got to fall in love with yourself before you start aligning with your true story. And many of those stories that the Pleiadians way back when, and every month they're giving me these really pivotal, monumental human evolutional experiences that we're resolving through our own personal issues. And each of us that are here, we can then do our own reflections and our own offerings and our own wisdoms and bringing them forth and sharing them devotionally, just because we're happy to share. Through my own life and personal experiences, I can then see how it fits and connects with all the collective threading and weaving. Now that we're stepping up to a new sheath, we get to choose as a collective, through people like me and other beautiful channelers, and through your own observation and connections, is what is it? Are you, what stories have you held on to that you might not even know? Because most often that you don't until someone poses these questions to you, and why they're so mind-boggling and profound to evolution in and of itself and our consciousness. What imprints have you held on to? And think about these questions in a deep and rich way. Meditate on them. Call forward any wounds, any healing that is required in any of your multidimensional bodies or chakras, or stories that you have within yourself. And you can do this just by asking yourself with intention, please call forward what is needing to be shown to me at this point. When you ask such questions, it's not the ego telling you what needs to be brought up, because your higher self will always bring what is the most important. So that's just what the higher self's job is. It will always give you, your guides will always give you what is the most important first to be dealt with experience. The ego might want you to have enough money to buy a car, but that's not the most important experience that your soul needs. It might be to clear that wound from when you were 5 years old. So your higher self and your spirit and your guides will always give you what is most important. And how we've carried these imprints and these stories throughout time, and how it's shifted and changed us, and how it's affected our psyche. Our psyche is how we know ourselves to be in any realm of experience, because we're going to be expanding into new realms. And these realms are going to be everything that is different than what we used to experience. We're going to be manifesting a lot quicker. So the psyche has to be healed. You can't manifest from a wounded psyche. Well, you can, but you're going to be manifesting a wounded reality. So bringing everything back into balance as the multidimensional bodies and circumference that we are, constantly harmonizing the new God light, new God energy from a new awareness of love and light. But we're now going to be co-creating these new realms of codes, these new realms of the biosphere. Codes constantly being updated because now you're aware of it. You've become consciously aware of it. You're consciously interacting with it. You're consciously engaging with it. And now you get to co-create in this way. But there's still some fundamental imbalances that we are seeing shift and play out before us. Whereas the abuse of power, how we've given our control away through voice, through choice, how we've given the wounding that we've been moving through without recognition, and they're very easily healed and resolved, which has then created greater social suffering and social wounding, and the crimes of the soul and how they reflect back out to outer crimes. And all of these experiences relate to very simple imbalances that each of us have the responsibility to go in and start sussing out and sorting out. And that is one of the stories they gave me, and they've called it, from the councils that are working with it, and to see how humanity evolves through it, is called the Adam Eve Project. And the Adam Eve Project is is each and every one of us come with a soul's exploration in our own lifetime to explore, express, and experience ourselves as unified through the divine masculine energies and the divine feminine energies. And so too, in that, we then create through those vibrational pulsations that reality that returns it to us. So now that the collective is awake enough, and we've seen enough evolve and enough being kind of purged out, and all that was hidden is now coming out, how all of the imbalances and how all of the warping of our own psyche and how all of the warping and normalization of devaluing and the normalization and the separation and the segregation and the pulling apart of who we are, the pitting against one another for competition and for dog eat dog world and win or lose, all of those energies are the ego trying to survive, not understanding because it's been separated from itself as spirit. And that absolutely comes from our earliest text, if you will, just for an example, but it goes much deeper than that because it's the psyche. The imprints that we came with as being birthed into this planet that you take from your lineage, your kosh, your social family, your familial energies, what you chose to take on, to experience in your physical body, and then co-create with and as. We have certain beliefs, we have certain emotional attachments, we have certain experiences that we want to play out and truly understand ourselves as multidimensional, vast divine beings, releasing the lower vibrational fixed limitations, fixed definitions or roles, because the higher we get in our own evolution, we will become more androgynous, fully harmonized male and female energies and entities within ourselves. That's manifesting instantly, where we have the equal will and the equal allowance, and it's harmonized all in the perfection of our pure hearts. That's manifestation at 5D. Anything that is not that is imbalanced. And that's why mastery takes so long. That's why we go through these profound daily challenges of challenging ourselves. Am I creating from an integrous perspective? Are our leaders? How did we place our power? Where did we give our power to and why? All of these incredible world global issues that we're having now to look at from these higher perspectives of co-creation, because we're here to rewrite it. Now we're stepping into this new sheath. What does the perspective of the divine and masculine energies, and we've asked this many, many times before, but we're going higher, deeper, and wider. The energy of the Adam and Eve story, what does that mean for you? And without going back to the internet and Googling it, we want you to sit and think about what it means for you before you do that. What is your earliest remembrances of what that means for you? And we want you to not think about what was told to you in church or the dogma. We want to think about that secondary, because you have a belief or an imprint that you're here to suss out. What does that story mean and hold for you? Because there's been a profound shift, and that profound shift of all of the imbalances we've had for eons, and we've seen the distortion of it. We've seen the disruption and the destruction of those beliefs, of the powers that have been held, the word Father, the word how we've understood God to be, the power that we thought God had to be, and the punishment that we held God to be, and what imprints that affected on the divine masculine. The sacred text that held divine feminine completely outside of the co-creative process. And how did that affect and infect the psyche of the divine feminine and what we've carried, what we felt we had to work harder, therefore empowering our divine masculine so much so that our divine masculine and divine feminine is out of balance, because we're having to be the divine feminine, having to be more and more in our divine masculine energies, because we want to be heard, we want to be respected, and it has to force us to work harder, if you will. And that's that dog eat dog competitive world, if you will, that divine feminine feel like, well, for our voices to be heard in equality of this, these are what we're being shown that we have to do to compete, if you will, for the same position, if you will. And that's what we're releasing and letting go of, because that's not the case at all. We've had it all backwards. We've had it upside down. To allow us to really sort out and suss out what it is you feel you're having to measure up to, and what falsities and what separation codes are they, because that's still the matrix. The matrix is all the mental games that just go around in karmic cycles, because they're all based on illusion. The mental illusion, that can be changed and shifted. Right now we're returning to heart. We're calling all of our consciousness and living from this heart space, which is your return to spirit. Your return to spirit is that absolute harmony of male and female energies, allowing yourself to master how much you give, to whom you give, how much you invest into whom you invest, because that is directing your energy to reality creation. And that is also allowing yourself to receive, which is a divine feminine energy. Because everything in our reality that we've been taught and shown is about doing. It's the male divine masculine energy, and it's the ego, doing, getting, becoming, title, superficiality, to say that you've got more, that you have more, that you have a title that's bigger and better. And then the abuse of power comes in to continue that and maintain that and sustain that. So you can see the imbalances and the wounding on the psyche. It just goes on and on. It doesn't resolve the issue of balance. The imbalances we see in our reality, the crimes of the soul, are because of the imbalances. So, I mean, it's key to everything. It's key to our manifestation. It's key to, we can't manifest unless we're balanced. We're balanced. We're manifesting imbalance right now. And that's what we see unfold. That's what we see being purged. And that's what's being shown to us. So all of these hints and these energies and these partial downloads that they've been giving me over the last 2 years have been the undercurrent of the imbalance of humanity through our separation stories. The Adam Eve project is about the collective divine masculine and divine feminine now being harmonized, because it must. Divine feminine awakening has risen to a point where divine feminines are now doing a lot of intuitive offering, speaking, expressing, experiencing, feeling, and healing, to the point that there's a great more intuitive receivership. That's why we're receiving all the codes that we are for our collective. The majority of the intuitive healing properties within every family are first felt through the divine feminine, because those are just the innate experiences we have to give life, to sustain life, make sure life is healthy within the house. We can feel it and sense it before things unfold and those towers come down. Those are the intuitive experiences that are felt and needed and required for healthy communities, for healthy leadership. If one is not balanced, one won't be a good leader because they're going to make foolish choices. They're going to be making choices purely from ego and fear or greed or gluttony, which are many of the lessons that we see our leaders have lived through and are causing great damage to the peoples and to the land. But when we're balanced, it's a different story, because they've gone through the experiences that make one wise. You can read all the books about being a good leader, all you want. You can have 6 master degrees if you want. It doesn't mean that you're wise. Wisdom is taking all that you've experienced and putting yourself right at the ground level on every level of humanity, so that you can feel into what each collective is moving through, so that you can allow yourself the highest level of compassion and understanding and intuitiveness to what is needed, what's for the greater good. So that when you as a leader are making a decision, whether you're a healer or a teacher, what is the greater good and how can I offer my gifts as a vessel of support and help? And then the outflux of such stories like my own. I went through what I went through because it was so imbalanced. I had gone 50 years without receiving, and all I'd done is give, and it created great imbalance in me. And I just kept manifesting people that wanted to keep taking advantage of me because that core wound was not healed. That core wound had taken me in so many arms, just like this tree had taken me so many arms of co-creation, so I could see all of these different reflections, and I could see all different angles of lack, and I could see all different angles of being suppressed and subjugated. I could see all different angles of being taken advantage of and not being received in any way. And so now is this big flip, because now the divine feminine claims her voice, or the divine masculine, depending on what you're healing right now, what chakra, what healing, what wound are you healing, will be a divine feminine energy or divine masculine, and harmonizing it as one. And why we call in those outer particles of who we are for those co-creative reflections. And it's all about the property of our co-creation being rebalanced as a whole collective, because micro, macro, it's all the same. We cannot create as a 5D collective unless we heal these imbalances, to reinstate a higher version of not necessarily definition, but oneness. Create creational stories that include all peoples and all voices. Understanding what healing and alchemy is all about, so that you don't have any necessary action to go and create those manipulations in any way, whether it's a manipulation of energy, a manipulation of time, a manipulation of resources, or physicality. There's no need to manipulate if you understand the balancing laws of the universe and who we are and why we've become what we've become. Why have we normalized such in our reality? That's so imbalanced. Why would we ever say that we're normalizing violence? What within our closed feeling and sensation would we ever want to see someone get hurt? Why would that be okay? Why would that be normal? And then people pay money to go and see it. You know, for instance, all the sports and all the things that we have where people pay a lot of money that could go to feed a whole village, and watch people beat each other up for a couple hours. And then they go and praise it and they yell about it. And then they make games out of it. So when we think about the imbalance of our psyche, how it's been so wounded to think that's okay, and war games and shooting games and all that stuff, which is a part of our growth, it's part of our evolution. There's no judgment on any of it. But when you look at it from the perspective of balance, it's like, well, how can we create on the opposite end of that? Because it's being flipped around. What's the 180 of all that has been imbalanced? Well, let's include everybody. Let's include the voices of all. Let's include the participation. Let's include the expression and the exploration, and start clearing out those collective wounds of what the Adam Eve Project is all about. The Adam Eve Project, they gave me a couple of downloads, but it's not for me to say what that Adam and Eve story means for you. That's up for you to suss out and to feel into, because it will bring those wounds that need to come forward to be healed for your lineage, for your tribe, for whatever it is that you've been chosen to bring here and clear and heal, and add your own color to the new creational story. We're all creating these new Bibles, if you will, and these Bibles will be within the belonging and the beyond that spirit really is, that God really is, the alliance with God that we have, to be balanced of all arms and all branches of reality, to know that we come from many cosmic planets and worlds, and we're here to balance and harmonize that as one, using our experiences, using our collective awakening, so that I can tap into a Pleiadian, a Sirian, Arcturian, Andromedan, Lyran, all of these energies of my branches of me, I can now call in, and I can harmonize, and I can use it for a collective now. And that's what's called being soulfully harmonized, that soul fulfillment. I am fulfilling my soul's purpose. When I'm honoring my past, I'm using the wisdoms of my past, and I'm creating in the now. That is being wise. And you don't need a certificate or a master's degree for anybody to tell you you're wise. There's many children out there that are far wiser than any person that might have 2 or 3 degrees, because they're absolutely living from their heart space, and they've come from many dimensions and many generations. That eagle or raven, let's see what that is. That's a hawk. Hello, beautiful hawk. Gorgeous. That's a beautiful hawk. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, Spirit. Messengers of the collective, they're just saying thank you. And so the Adam Eve story, the Adam Eve Project, what does that mean for you in your evolution of? Hello. And so we just got cut off and we got put on back on again. So hi, everybody. Hi. Just making sure I have, yeah, so it gets cut off. So we were just looking at the beautiful hawk that's up there. And so we're going to pull some tarot. So what does that mean for you? It's not for anyone to say what the stories mean for each person, because each person comes with unique rebalancing codes that they're meant to explore, express, and experience anew. That way they can write who I am now. I'm reclaiming my power. I'm reclaiming my consciousness, my light, my energy. I'm not going to give it to outside sources that have no idea who I am or what's my purpose and what's my contribution here on planet Earth and all planets. But remember, right now, we're all souls. When we're awakened to a soul energy, I know right now, because I'm acting as a soul and I'm living as a soul, I know that all that I am right now, using all my wisdom right now, contributes to all planets that I'm on. And that's the difference between being awake and being not awake, because you think that you're only this body and only this body, you're not connected, or you don't affect anything. And you absolutely do. All aspects of you, you affect. So if you stay suppressed, you cannot help that light of that person, of that being, that body of you that's on another version of Earth or Pleiades or Sirian. That's why it's important that we